Have you ever wondered how fast someone can actually manifest money? Not someday, not years from now, but starting today. It's one of the most common questions people ask when they first begin exploring manifestation. And it's easy to understand why. Most people aren't looking for theories. They're looking for results. They want to know if anything can truly change. They want to know if opportunities can appear faster than expected. They want to know if abundance can begin showing up in their lives sooner rather than later. And most importantly, they want to know if they're wasting their time. Because after years of financial stress, uncertainty, and disappointment, patience becomes difficult. When bills are piling up, waiting 6 months for a breakthrough doesn't sound very appealing. You want to know how fast change can happen. But before we answer that question, we need to understand something important. Most people misunderstand manifestation completely. They imagine manifestation as a magical process where money suddenly appears out of nowhere, as if the universe simply drops wealth into their bank account overnight. But manifestation is usually far more subtle than that. In many cases, manifestation begins long before the money arrives. It begins with a shift in perception, a shift in awareness, a shift in behavior, a shift in opportunities. Because money rarely arrives directly. Instead, opportunities arrive, ideas arrive, conversations arrive, connections arrive, confidence arrives. And those things often create the pathway through which money eventually flows. This is why two people can experience the exact same opportunity and get completely different results. One notices it, the other ignores it. One acts, the other hesitates. One follows through, the other procrastinates. The difference isn't necessarily luck. The difference is often internal state. Your internal state influences what you notice, and what you notice influences your actions. Most people don't realize how much of their life is being filtered through subconscious programming. Every experience you've had creates patterns. Those patterns create expectations. Those expectations influence perception, and perception influences decisions. The brain is constantly scanning reality. Every second, it receives far more information than you could ever consciously process. To avoid overload, it filters most of that information out. And one of the primary things it uses to decide what matters is your existing beliefs and emotional patterns. This means if you've spent years focusing on scarcity, stress, and financial struggle, your brain becomes highly skilled at noticing evidence that confirms those expectations. Not because reality is against you, because your attention is being directed towards specific things. Imagine buying a new car. Suddenly, you begin noticing that same car everywhere. The cars were always there. Your attention simply changed. Manifestation often works similarly. When your internal focus shifts, your awareness shifts. And when awareness shifts, opportunities that once seemed invisible suddenly become visible. This is one reason some people report seeing changes very quickly. Not because the universe rewrote reality overnight, but because their perception changed almost immediately. A single new insight can create a completely different set of decisions. And different decisions create different outcomes. Sometimes those outcomes happen surprisingly fast. Think about how quickly one conversation can change your life. One phone call, one recommendation, one introduction, one opportunity, one idea. Entire futures have changed because of a single moment. The possibility is always there. The question is whether you're prepared to recognize it. This is why many personal development teachers say that manifestation starts internally before it appears externally. The external result is often the final stage. The internal shift happens first. Now here's something fascinating. Many people who experience rapid improvements often describe a similar sequence. First, they notice feeling calmer. Then they feel more optimistic. Then they feel more focused. Then opportunities begin appearing. At first glance, it may seem unrelated. But the connection becomes obvious when you understand how the brain works. Stress narrows perception. When the nervous system is overwhelmed, the brain becomes obsessed with immediate survival. Long-term thinking decreases. Creativity decreases. Problem-solving decreases. Opportunity recognition decreases. The brain becomes defensive, protective, reactive. In that state, abundance becomes difficult to recognize because attention is consumed by perceived threats. But when the nervous system becomes calmer, something interesting happens. Mental bandwidth returns. Creativity increases. Awareness increases. Focus improves. People begin noticing things they previously ignored. This doesn't require belief. It's simply how attention works. This is one reason practices involving meditation, breathwork, visualization, and sound-based relaxation have become increasingly popular. They help people shift state, and state influences perception. The faster someone shifts their state, the faster they may begin noticing different possibilities. This explains why some people claim to experience positive changes within days. Not necessarily because money instantly appears, but because their relationship with reality changes. And that relationship influences behavior. Imagine someone who has spent years feeling defeated. They stop applying for opportunities. They stop networking. They stop taking chances. They stop believing improvement is possible. Then something changes. Perhaps they begin a daily practice. Perhaps they start listening to calming audio. Perhaps they begin spending time visualizing a better future. Perhaps they simply become more aware of their thought patterns. As their state improves, behavior improves. As behavior improves, outcomes improve. And sometimes those improvements happen quickly, very quickly. Now let's talk about one of the biggest misconceptions about manifestation. Many people believe that manifestation is measured only by money. But money is often the final result. The earlier signs usually appear first. For example, you suddenly feel motivated again. You reconnect with someone valuable. You discover a new opportunity. You get a new idea. You feel less anxious. You notice unexpected possibilities. You receive useful information at exactly the right moment. These changes often arrive before financial results appear. Yet many people overlook them because they're only watching their bank account. They ignore the chain of events leading to the outcome. The truth is that manifestation often unfolds through a sequence. The internal shift creates external opportunities. External opportunities create actions. Actions create results. Results create abundance. The timeline varies for everyone. Some people notice changes in days. Some notice them in weeks. Some require longer because deeply conditioned patterns take time to shift. There is no universal schedule. And that's actually good news, because it means you don't need to compare yourself to anyone else. Your journey is your own. The danger comes when people become obsessed with timing, when they constantly ask, "Why hasn't it happened yet? Where's my result? Why is someone else getting results faster?" Ironically, that mindset often creates additional resistance, because attention returns to lack. Attention returns to frustration. Attention returns to doubt. And those emotional states influence behavior. The people who experience the greatest long-term transformations are often the people who stay consistent regardless of immediate outcomes. They understand something important. Every day of positive conditioning is creating change beneath the surface, even when visible results haven't arrived yet. Think about planting a seed. Nothing appears above the soil initially. Yet enormous activity is taking place underground. Roots are forming. Structures are developing. Foundations are being built. Then eventually growth becomes visible. The same principle often applies to personal transformation. Internal changes frequently occur before external evidence appears. This is why patience remains important. Not passive waiting, active patience. The kind of patience that continues moving forward while trusting the process. Now let's discuss sound frequencies specifically. Many people become interested in frequencies because they hear stories of rapid transformation. And while exaggerated claims certainly exist, there is something important worth understanding. Sound influences state. Music influences state. Rhythm influences state. Frequency influences perception of sound. The nervous system responds continuously. When people spend time listening to sounds that help them relax, focus, and reduce mental noise, they often experience increased clarity. And clarity changes decisions. Better decisions create better outcomes. This is where many people begin reporting what they call synchronicities, unexpected opportunities, unexpected conversations, unexpected breakthroughs. Some view these events spiritually, others view them psychologically. Either way, the experience feels real to the person living it. And that experience often reinforces positive momentum. Momentum is powerful. Small improvements create confidence. Confidence creates action. Action creates results. Results create more confidence. Eventually, a new cycle forms. A cycle that works for you rather than against you. And perhaps that's the real secret. The fastest manifestations don't always involve money itself. They involve momentum. Because once momentum begins, everything else tends to follow. You start thinking differently, acting differently, expecting differently, noticing differently, living differently. And from that new foundation, financial opportunities often become easier to recognize and pursue. So how fast can you manifest money? The honest answer is that nobody can predict an exact timeline. But changes in awareness can happen today. Changes in focus can happen today. Changes in emotional state can happen today. Changes in behavior can happen today. And sometimes those shifts become the beginning of extraordinary transformations, much faster than most people ever imagined. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about manifestation, subconscious reprogramming, sound frequencies, abundance psychology, and the hidden mental patterns that influence success, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you're curious about the sound-based practices many people are using to create greater focus, clarity, and abundance in their daily lives, check out the link in the description and the pinned comment below. You may discover that the first step toward manifesting more wealth isn't waiting for money to arrive. It's becoming the version of yourself that can finally recognize the opportunities that were there all along.